Hi and welcome to this short video on engagement patterns in different social groups within society. So this is for the AQA exam and this is part of the second paper, so paper 2. And my biggest advice about this section is be prepared to write in detail about the engagement patterns of different social groups in society. As there is lots of wordings and lots of content around this area, I do believe that this could potentially be a 6 or even a 9 mark question just because of the natural volume of wordings, discussions that could be put forward, and I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. Okay, so like I said, just be prepared to explain it, maybe in a 4 mark question, maybe evaluate it, discuss it in a 6 or a 9 mark question. Okay, so this is what I mean. If you look at this section here in front of you and the content, what's around it, now you may just want to pause it for a second just to cast your eyes over the various wordings, what's on there. But just before you do that, I just want to draw your attention. These at the top are the social groups we are talking about. Okay, so 5 different social groups. So if you just like to pause it, just to cast your eyes over the bits of wording, what is on there, and we'll discuss it in a little bit more detail. Okay, so like I say, the social groups are at the top, and you may get a question about any one of those social groups and have to either discuss it, evaluate it, explain their engagement patterns in sport and physical activity. And what you need to do in order to gain maximum marks is to draw attention to the left-hand column here I've just highlighted. So as you can see, attitudes, role models, accessibility, media coverage, stereotyping, etc. And each one of those factors, each one of those factors needs to be included when you are writing about a particular social group. So for example, if you take age, role models are young, which can have a negative impact on elderly participation. So what I'm saying here is if you just draw attention to this section here, it could be a question on age and the influence of role models. Well, generally, lots of role models are very young of age, in particular sports, particularly your sports such as rugby, your football, your athletics. You may have a few more role models in golf, remember the great Jack Nicklaus. But generally, role models are young, and that could influence negatively participation of somebody who may be of an old age pensioner. Just moving on again, gender is one that we've discussed in our class, quite at length, and attitudes. You may talk about role models and how there are very few role models for women to look up to in terms of the media coverage of females, and I know it's getting a lot more coverage in terms of netball leagues, gets a lot of show now, and women's football is booming at the minute, but it's fair to say that there are not as many female stars as there are males, and that's massively to do with the coverage and the media which we know about. So like I say, pause it again, and what I'd like to do, or suggest you do, is take a social group and then look at the factors, like I said, on the left hand side, and how they influence engagement or participation in a positive or negative way. Now, as you can say, as I've said earlier, you can make some exam questions about each one. So you could do a discuss question, looking at the pros and cons of something. You could evaluate, looking at one side of the argument in terms of positive or a negative, or you could just explain the engagement patterns of that particular social group using the factors down the left hand side. That would be a really good revision tool. Like I say, be prepared on this section to write a lot, and be prepared for it to be a 6 or 9 mark question. Like I say, I know I am guessing, but if you look at the content, what's could potentially go into a question, then it'd be good to have that sort of knowledge. The section then, you look at gender. You can see lots of factors which can influence participation in a negative or a positive way. So all the best with that. And finally, one of the areas which we discussed quite a lot within within our lesson, is the participation of women in sport. Okay, like it said at the top, women have historically battled many stereotypes, views that have affected their participation in sport, such as women lack the strength or endurance to do the same activity as men. As you can see, the person in front of us here, Casa Semenya, bless her, had to go through testing to prove that she was a female sex, and it was found out that she had abnormally high testosterone levels, which are the catalyst behind building muscle, and therefore that's why she had a large muscle bulk. Other areas are women who are competitive are not feminine. Okay, too much physical activity limits a woman's ability to give birth. Again, these are stereotypes. A woman's role is to be a mother, carer, and a manager of the home, which is an old stereotypical of the 50s. Women who train hard and develop muscle have their sexual orientation questions, such as Caster Semenya. Okay, so like I say, if you just flip back, and all the best with your exams.